I want to welcome our presenter for tonight, Brian Pichman. Brian has dedicated his career to transforming libraries and educational spaces. He is the Director of Strategic Innovation at the Evolve Project, which helps libraries and educational institutions seamlessly adopt advanced technologies. And he's here today to talk to us about one of those advanced technologies, artificial intelligence. So thank you so much, Brian, for being here, and I will now turn it over to you.
Cool, thanks for having me. So today we're going to talk about artificial intelligence. Whenever I talk about new technologies, one of the first things I like to remind people is that technology continues to evolve and always change. How many of us remember when Wikipedia came out? Okay, and how many of us were told that Wikipedia was evil and we can't use the stuff from Wikipedia, right? So we've seen these evolutions of technology. When I was in school, I would edit Wikipedia pages to prove a point. And I'm like, no, look, if we look it up on Wikipedia, I was right. So that's my red flag and toxic characteristic. But that was the idea of and the fear behind Wikipedia. If we even look at higher education and online classes, in the early 2000s, if people took an online class, it wasn't considered credible. And now, today, you can do tons of online classes. You can get a master's degree entirely by going online. So my point is that technology continues to evolve and shift and change, and there's always some level of resistance. And so just keep that in mind as we talk through a bunch of fun technology stuff. And the other piece I always like to add is that technology, at its core, is inherently neutral. Technology could be used for really good, positive things, or technology can be used for really bad, negative things. And so I always like to say AI is a neutral technology. You can use it for good, you can also use it for bad. And so there's all sorts of conversations about using artificial intelligence to replace art majors or using artificial intelligence to write books. It's a neutral though, so you can use it for positive or you can use it for negative. Some fun news articles that have came up through the adoption of artificial intelligence. One of my personal favorites, if you don't know, Facebook uses all of the stuff that you post as part of its generative AI language and how it learns. And you have to opt out for that. And you have to actually go to the help center, search for opt out, and then just fill out a form and hit submit. But there's been tons of these types of evolutions of technology. So whenever I introduce artificial technology, my goal is to explain what it is, highlight what it isn't, and then show you all the different ways the tools can exist. So, let me skip this slide. So what is artificial intelligence? The definition of AI is the theory and the development of using a computer system to basically perform tasks that require a human to do. And whether that's visual perceptions, recognizing speech, making a decision, or translation between languages. I heard this really cool quote at a conference in Dublin where the presenter said, we've been using cognitive outsourcing for years. And I was like, what's cognitive outsourcing? And they said, well, when we started using Google a lot, we would use Google to outsource our references. We would Google our questions, see a bunch of sources, and we use Google to outsource that reference lookup. Now we're looking at AI as outsourcing the decision-making process. And so it's a really interesting dynamic in how things have shifted and evolved. The other thing that's part of artificial intelligence that you may hear as a term is machine learning. And all that is saying that there's a statistical and an algorithm that takes a bunch of data, figures out the patterns, and allows the computer to make decisions on its own. But it's using references and it's using patterns to do so. If you're looking for a deep dive into what is machine learning and explained very, very well, one of my friends, Amanda Sweet from the Nebraska Library Commission, put together this really great guide. And by the way, the slides, I assume, will be shared. And so you don't have to write everything down or take pictures. It's all for you. So usually when I talk about artificial intelligence, I see one of two reactions. I personally hope that you're the cat on the right and not the cat on the left. But if that's okay, then my name isn't Brian and write your review about somebody else. So why are we talking about artificial intelligence? It's been around for 30, 40 plus years. But now it's more widely accessible, and it's really cheap, if not free, for everyday use. People are relying, how many of you heard of ChatGPT? Cool, a lot of us. People are using that to ask its questions. Less people are Googling their questions and just asking the AI engine for an answer. That cognitive decision-making has been outsourced. But it's become cheaper and easier to use, and that's why we're talking about it more. That's why you probably see so many ads on the highway where like, we use AI, because it's everyone's favorite buzzword. I'm sorry, my little images didn't load right, so it'll be fine. So people think AI is in one of these four umbrellas, or four pillars. The first is logic and rule-based. And all that means is an artificial intelligence model is like an if-then statement. If you see this, react this way. But more advanced ones are what we're seeing more of, like pattern-based. So it sees a series of patterns, and then it makes a decision. Deep learning is another term that you may hear in the artificial intelligence world. And all that is, it's a subset of machine learning that allows the computer to make its own decisions autonomously. And then the last is neural networks, which is just essentially a way of how the systems connect and talk to each other. So I just threw a whole bunch of jargon at you. I'll explain it in a little different way. So if I was to build an app that was using artificial intelligence for a flashlight, if I was building this app using logic rule-based programming, the code, if you will, would be if you see that it's dark, turn the light on. Very simple. If I wanted to use machine learning, however, it may turn on the flashlight when it hears other words than dark, picking up on these patterns and references when I want to use the flashlight. If I take it even farther and use deep learning, the idea is that the flashlight app will know when to turn on, such as, man, I can't see in here, and then the flashlight app would turn on. So those would be the different pillars of that succession. But all AI is a bunch of patterns, and it makes an educated guess what the next sequence of that pattern is. And it can do that through one of four ways. The one that we see the most is learning on examples. So how many of us report things as spam when we see it in our email? That's teaching the Google engine, if you're using Google, to recognize this type of content and then identify it as spam. So you're actually helping train the model. Another fun fact that the world doesn't tell you about is, you know those little CAPTCHAs that say click on the pictures of the stoplight, click on the pictures of the cars? That was actually Google's very intuitive way to teach a computer to recognize images, and you were the human testers. And so I always find that as a fun fact. So ask your check from Google. That part's a joke. They won't give you money. But that was you teaching the machine on examples on how to detect images. Yeah?
Can you go back one slide?
Yeah.
So in deep learning,
Mm-hmm.
the algorithms can determine on their own if a prediction is accurate or not. Is it double checking itself, or how's it doing that?
So it's referencing patterns. So if it saw my pattern of turning on the light every time I said I can't see, it would go, oh, then Brian must want this light to turn on every time I can't see. So it's assuming that's what's happening. But if I go like this and say I can't see, the model would be incorrect because turning on the flashlight won't change that output. Does that make a little bit more sense? So back to pattern recognition. So learning on examples is one piece. Learning on experience is similar to the deep learning idea, is positive, negative results. If I wanted to do something and I go, good job, like you teach a child, good job, don't touch the stove. Learning on experience. But what we're seeing today is fascinating. We can give an AI model a bunch of data with no correlation and say, hey, learn this. And it does a really decent job. I can upload 1,000 different spreadsheets and say, analyze the data between these spreadsheets, and it does a pretty good job doing it. So it can take unstructured data or data that you don't define properly, and it will make an assumption on what that data is, and that's how you interact. And the last piece is this idea of self-learning, where an AI model can get better and better at the task as you interact with it, telling you, saying, hey, this is correct, let's dive deeper, and it's going to learn. But the challenge with artificial intelligence is this idea, and it's called the paradigm of garbage data in, garbage data out. Meaning you can have the most brilliantly programmed artificial intelligence bot, but if you have really bad data, it's not going to work very well. And so it's really hard to find like the sweet spot when you're building this AI model. So as AI evolves, this idea of recognizing from patterns and moving to automations is accelerating. AI is able to do, it used to be very transactional, like you ask an AI bot a question, you get an answer. You chat in with Amazon support, you're talking to a bot for the most of it to do your returns or exchanges. But now we're looking more at automation. And so what this could mean is if it knows that every time I have a flight, 2 hours before I call an Uber, an AI automation may already call the Uber, so when I start to leave, my Uber is coming up, and I don't have to open up the Uber app. So that's the idea of automation with artificial intelligence. So with this idea of bad data, the challenges for artificial intelligence is usually one of 3 buckets. The first is precision. And so if you flood an AI with really bad data or junk data, you're going to get imprecise results. You're going to get inaccurate results as a coincidence. Context is another piece that artificial intelligence sometimes struggles with. And my favorite example was if you, hold my phone here, if you ask Siri to call an ambulance, it would do like the ultimate dad joke and go, "Hi, I will now call you ambulance instead of Brian." Because it didn't understand the context of an ambulance is a medical emergency. So a programmer actually had to reprogram that phrase to say, "Oh, is this an emergency? You should call 911." Cool. One time I did this lecture and I actually started calling 911. It was a little embarrassing. And the last piece is training. Every model that exists out there today requires constant training, which means there needs to be an engineer or a team of engineers that look at how it's interacting, how it's responding, and tweaking it as it goes. So given these examples, some of my favorite runaway artificial intelligence tools was Tay. And in 2016, Microsoft released a bot on Twitter named Tay. It was supposed to be a 19-year-old girl that was going to learn about the world. So remember when I said technology is inherently neutral? Tay was inherently neutral. However, people on the internet, as they usually do, like to troll things. And so they taught Tay a bunch of really inappropriate phrases, inappropriate words, and made Tay not a very nice person. And that's because Tay was never taught context of good language and bad language. So if they would have taught Tay the context of a bad word versus a good word, she might have learned in a more positive way. This is a fun one. You can go to it, inspirerobot.me. Anyone ever see the little pictures of the cat hanging on a tree and it's hang in there? Maybe? No, I'm the only one that likes memes? That's fine. To each their own. So this is a meme generator, or memes for others, where the idea was find really good quotes and attach them to an image. However, people trained it to do things that were wonky. And so you would get really weird results like a wedding picture that says the human spirit can be like a flying pig. So artificial intelligence can be used in a variety of different ways, in a variety of different tools. And I'll break down all these different concepts of using artificial intelligence today. There's a company called CB that does this report called CB Insights every year, and they look at top technology like AR, VR, virtual reality, XR, extended reality, etc. And so they look at the top 100 companies across a variety of different mechanisms. Mainly vertical AI is companies that you would use to do a specific industry. Like if I'm in a fashion industry, I will look at a vertical AI tool set. If I wanted to use AI across multiple industries, that would be horizontal because you can use it anywhere. So the first one that we see the most about is generative AI. And this is the idea of using artificial intelligence to generate images, videos, music, text, etc. Anyone on TikTok? No? Okay. So one of the newest things is using AI to create Yeti videos, where these Yetis are doing vlogs. Super funny, sometimes super inappropriate, but for the most part, pretty funny. But how does this generative AI work? How does an AI engine create a book or create a video, create images? And it's simple. It takes a bunch of data that it knows exists in the world and then applies it based on a predictability scale. So whenever it generates an image, it's going to guess the next pixel based on all the other images it sees based on your prompt of what you're asking. And so if you ask to see a picture of a cat, it goes, well, I've seen a million pictures of cats. Let me generate what I think a picture of a cat should look like. And so that's it trying to make a joke. If you are looking for a really boring read, and you're like, man, I can't sleep, what can I do? This is the first book written by AI. I think it was in 2019 or 2018. And it's a riveting tale about lithium-ion batteries. And it's a whole textbook, but everything you need to know about batteries and how they work. Entirely written by artificial intelligence. Or you can create images. And this is probably one of my favorite tools. It's called the Lensa app. And so the idea of the Lensa app is you upload like 15 photos of yourself and it generates images of you in like this cool, futuristic, steampunk vibe. All my friends that have done it, their pictures of them smiling. Mine have not a single smile in any of them. And I'm like super passive aggressive, so I immediately reached out and asked, why is there a problem? I sent happy photos, and now my therapist wants to have an extra talk because these are all sad. And it turned out that white bearded men, for that like facial structure, they trained it on, some of these images, datas, were trained on Viking images. And if you don't know anything about Vikings, I don't believe they smile. And so that's why these images have sad Brian. So, because again, I'm passive aggressive, I was like, I'll just make my own. I'm petty as hell. So I decided I would make my own AI that took my photos and created professional headshots. So I was like, this would be a cool project. I want to see if I can make, like, what suits should I buy that make me look good? And so I made these, and it was super easy to do. You don't have to be a computer programmer, and we can talk about it at the end. But I made a bunch of professional headshots, and I like to use my mom as a litmus test. So I sent them to my mom, and she's like, wow, these are really nice pictures of you. Where were you when you took these? These are nice suits. And then she's like, oh, you found something that looks just like you. And I was like, Mom, which one do you think is me? Because I'm kind of upset. Because neither of those look like me, let alone like attractive me. And so my mom is a horrible person. She doesn't know what I look like, is what I got out of this. My brother knew right away. He's like, Brian, quit screwing around with artificial intelligence. No one likes you, and you look like the tin soldier from Toy Story. They're not Toy Story. Santa Claus 2, and they like replicated Tim Allen. But this idea of creating images of yourself or creating images of celebrities is becoming more and more popular. And this is the idea of what they call a deepfake. And it's where you use artificial intelligence to manipulate images or videos to look like somebody else or say something that somebody else does. And it's getting progressively harder and harder to detect what was real and what's not. And this is like a huge human discussion that we won't have here. But one of the fun discussions is, can artificial intelligence detect other artificial intelligence? Early 2022s, probably. It could detect what was human written, what was artificial intelligence written based on the data that it had. But now there's this concept, and the word is weird, and it's called generative AI inbreeding. Meaning all these AI models that exist learn off of data that's out there in the internet, right? But if I'm creating generative AI content, and the AI model is looking for content to learn, it's going to see my AI generative content and assume it's human written and make it part of its code. So that's why artificial intelligence detectors don't really work. Because the data set that it has, it can't tell the difference because it was never shown the difference between the two types because it's learning both types of content generated. Excuse me. If we look at, and this is like a really fun side quest, if we look at how much data is generated every single day, in 2019, so this was before like everyone's on TikTok, before everyone's creating reels, before COVID when we were bored and we just made videos for fun, 463 exabytes of data was generated each day, which is, I believe, like 100,000 terabytes of data, which is a really gross number of data pieces every single day. Some more estimates, you can see the skyrocket in 2020 when we were bored at home and we had nothing else to do, so we just made videos. And they say now that over 2/3 of the world's data is user-generated, like someone's playing around, creating content, and uploading it. So that's generative AI. There's another form of artificial intelligence that I call operational AI. And this is artificial intelligence designed to make our lives better. And this is my favorite because I'm lazy. And so how can I use artificial intelligence in my everyday world? I can use it with editing images, editing photos. I can highlight something. I'll show you some examples. I can have it write program code for me. I can help it manage my team, manage emails, manage social media, or even act as a cybersecurity engineer. So you can highlight images, you can say remove a background, you can highlight an object and say remove. You can do that on your iPhone now where if you took like a really cool family photo but there's all these people behind you at Disney, you can highlight all the other people and it makes them disappear. And so this is a photo of some of my friends. We're messing around one day and we said, hey, let's edit what we're drinking, let's edit what we look like, let's expand the image out, but by typing in prompts, it slowly created, a slightly different video, or slightly different image. If you don't like social media like me, and you want AI to do it for you, artificial intelligence can tweet, can post, can write articles, share things on LinkedIn, retweet things or repost things, and you just give it a list of instructions and away it goes. We also see it in IT security. And so if you're in like higher ed or something like that, a lot of companies or a lot of those industries are looking at using AI to detect malicious actions, to write phishing emails, to test and train your team, and a bunch of other stuff like that. I'm going to skip this slide. So again, technology is inherently neutral, but what's really fascinating to me is how people are using AI to do bad things. Because if you learn what other people are doing wrong, you can figure out ways to protect yourself. And so how many of us used to get those emails from like the Prince of Nigeria that had like tons of money for you? I was actually almost fell for that when I was like 12. I was so pumped that like, we're gonna be rich, mom. And so like I was emailing back and forth with the guy. Then he asked me like what my social security number is. And I was like, I don't know what that is. So I got my mom and she prevented me from being a billionaire, is what I got out of this. But it's really easy. It used to be really easy to detect those because you're like, this person can't spell for the life of them, or they're using really weird words that I wouldn't use in normal language. There's no way they're related to me. But now they can use ChatGPT to write the perfect email, to write something that causes you to react in such a way like, oh, my child needs help. This clearly sounds like my kid. Let me go respond. Because my mom would fall for that probably, because if they send a picture of me in a suit, she's going to believe it's me. And so you can also, this is like kind of scary, Black Mirror, if you've never seen that, now you can, where you can take a photo of yourself, upload it to a site called Social Catfish, and the site had really good intentions. Like if you're talking to someone online, and you want to make sure they're real, you take their photo, you upload it, and it uses AI to figure out who they are, where they exist in the world, and a bunch of fun facts about them. But obviously, you can use it for evil. So I've played with this many of times where I upload a photo or I get someone's permission to upload a photo of them and we see if it can find it, and they can. Like they don't have to be on social media and this tool can find out who they are, what their relatives are, what their phone number is, all that stuff. It's pretty cool, right? So conversational AI is this idea of having an interaction with a bot, asking questions, getting an answer, going back and forth, uploading a piece of data, and reviewing it. So I paused to teach you a little bit about security when you're using these tools. If it's a free something and you're uploading data to it to have it analyze it, whatever, don't upload anything that's personally identifiable. Like if you have an address book and you're like, I want this to be organized differently, probably not upload that. Or if you have taxes you want your AI to do for you, which it can, probably not a good use of that tool, especially if you're not paying for it, because anything you upload to a lot of these models will be used to train future iterations. So if you're using the free version of ChatGPT last year and you're like, I'm not going to have an accountant, it's probably not the best idea. But you can also train AI off your own data, which I think is probably the coolest thing. So let's say you're running a company or you have a bunch of knowledge articles on how to do something, you can send it to an artificial intelligence engine, say, analyze this, and then ask questions about it. Or you have like a manual of like how to operate your TV, and you're like, I don't want to read this. Upload it to an AI bot, and this one's fine. Upload it to an AI bot and go, hey, this is the error on my television. How can I fix it? And it may be able to understand that and respond. Yeah, you had a question?
So you're saying that AI can understand what I put into Excel and Word and PDF?
Yep. You can even send a picture of an image. And what's really, so like my brother and I, we've been using ChatGPT to help plan our European travels, just to see like how powerful it is. And it's so good, like we can take a picture of something. Like we decided to go to Athens a few months ago without a tour guide, and we're gonna use ChatGPT to be the tour guide. So we took pictures of everything, and we're like, hey, what is this? Explain it to me. What's the historical relevancy? And it did a phenomenal job. Like we were obscure about some of the things just to see how good it was. And it gave us some like really neat fun facts. Was there a question back there? No? Cool. But people are leveraging like this chat tool of training your own data within their own communication tools at work. What's also really neat is you can use artificial intelligence and train it on a personality. So you can make your AI humorous, sarcastic, whatever, or for companionship. How many of us seen this movie, Her? Cool, not a lot of us, that's great. So Her is a movie where a gentleman falls in love with an AI that's voiced by Scarlett Johansson. So obviously he fell in love. But he like builds this relationship over this AI bot that he talks to, and over time he became closer and closer and, fell in love. This type of technology existed when this movie came out, which was in 2013. Oh, thank you. I'm a drinker. If you're looking at like diving more into how AI engines are trained, you can do stuff for free. This is a tool called Dialogflow by Google, and it lets you understand how a machine makes a decision based off a variety of data sources. Another fun tool to play with is Chatbase, and this one has like a free tier. You can upload documents to it, and you can say, learn about what I gave you, and it'll only learn about that. It won't use anything else that's out there in the world, and it's a really great tool. Let's skip that one. Some other fun tools that in the education world, they like this tool more than ChatGPT. This one's called Perplexity. It has a free tier, so you can play, but again, don't upload anything that's identifiable for others. Don't like give it your social or anything like that. But Perplexity does a really good job of citing where it got the information from. So that's why people in the educational world are like, we like Perplexity because it tells us where the sources came from. If you're looking to do research or like analyze survey data, Fori is a really great tool that has a free tier where you can upload like the results of a survey and say analyze it. Or in my case, I found a bunch of articles about AI in higher ed, and the articles I gave, was it unbiased? Like, did I give enough pros and did I give enough cons? And the AI tool did what it's supposed to. Another thing that we see AI playing a role in is this idea of a digital twin. And so you may start hearing this trend more. The idea of a digital twin is replicating something that's in the physical world and putting it into a digital space so you can interact with it in the exact same way. So people are using it as like AI learning assistants. So imagine that I want to be a doctor and I need to train my doctor surgery type things. I can do that in a virtual world, have a virtual patient or digital twin of a real patient, and practice the surgery over and over again on this digital twin of a patient. Or in the classrooms, like going on a field trip without having to leave and seeing wherever you want in the world and interacting with that world as if you're really there. Some other neat little companies, this one's called Ovation VR. The idea of Ovation VR is It trains you how to public speak. So you can pre-program like what type of environment you want. Are you giving a board presentation? Are you practicing an interview? Are you giving a presentation on some informational piece? The audience is all digital twins of other people, and they'll interact with you. Another neat tool is equal reality, and the idea is to put you in the shoes of like other people and see how they experience the world. And this one's neat. Let me see if the video will play. Oh. We'll try it. So this is I'm not really speaking in it, and it's actually talking about this technology from a company called Twin Protocol. And the idea was, in 20 seconds, I can stand in front of a green screen, I can talk for 20 seconds, and they can make me say anything it wants. And all I did was say 20 seconds worth of words. And what was even more impressive is it can do language translation. So it has me speaking in Spanish, Italian, and French with my like accent and sound of voice. And it's a really powerful tool, and this is called from Twin Protocol. And then shifting gears a little bit more, analytical AI, or how can we use AI to analyze data, spreadsheets, etc. One of my favorite companies is formula.dog, where you can, in clear text, ask to have it write a formula for you. So if you are in Excel and you have to spend hours like playing with spreadsheets, which is most people's least favorite thing to do in the world, this speeds it up. There's also a lot of other ways that we can use AI to analyze data. One is recognizing characters. The best example of this is if you're speeding through one of those red light cameras and it takes a picture of your license plate. It's not someone sitting at a screen like scrolling in, trying to figure out the letters. It's artificial intelligence that takes that license plate, scrapes the text, runs a search, and sends you that bill. Or as the other example, when I was in like Greece, we took pictures of things in Greek because I don't speak it. It translates it for me. Advanced user preferences is the idea of using artificial intelligence to determine like buying patterns or trends and analyzing what people may or may not do. So if you're looking at like Netflix or Amazon, it recommends things to you, not because there's some movie buff that watches everything you watch and goes, I think Brian will like this TV show. It's looking at what I've watched compared to everybody else. And if I watch very similar shows to somebody else, it recommends what we're not seeing together, if that makes sense. Image recognition is this really fun concept of artificial intelligence I think will take off in the next year or two, where people will use it more often. Like my example of going to other countries taking pictures is very like basic. We can take that 1,000 times farther. If you have an iPhone, for instance, you can search for the word dog on your photos and see all the dog pictures you've ever taken. Or if you tag people in photos on your iPhone of like Brian or your brothers or your sisters, and you can then search for them by name, and you can see all of them. So it makes finding that photo really easy. Or Google's image recognition is also a great tool. But this was interesting to me, is this idea of AI cognitive intelligence. So Microsoft released this conceptual idea of, can we use AI to look at a person and determine their emotions? And it's interesting because it's it seemed pretty accurate in like testing. I was dating someone at the time. I said something mean to her. I took a quick picture, uploaded it, and I was like, it says you're angry. And then I took another photo, and it says she was super angry. But it's a really interesting use of this technology to analyze people. Whether or not that's a good thing or bad thing, that's not my role in the world. I just like to play. But using data and using AI to understand data is a really great tool set, and it makes life a lot easier. We talked about using Excel and powered insights. You can use artificial intelligence to data scrub. So you can point this tool called Browse AI to a website even, say, learn everything on this web page and give me like an Excel sheet of contact information. Whatever you're trying to research and do, it can do it. Crife is an interesting idea. And this is the idea of, it was written by, or was programmed by an FBI profiler that moved to Sweden that wanted to know, like, if I trained an AI model, how I read people and understood if they're telling the truth or not, could I build an AI that can do all that, like, Criminal Minds type stuff? And so she built a company called Crife. Another company called Interviewer AI is trying to make interviews easier for the interviewer, where you like basically like do a Zoom call with an AI bot, you answer a bunch of questions, and then it gives the interviewer like a report of, here's who you should speak to next. And in some really neat, good ways is using AI as a like assistive technology. So Apple has a great tool called Personal Voice. So you read 250 prompts on your iPhone, and if you search for personal voice on your iPhone or your Mac, you'll find out how to do it. And you read these prompts, and then you can make your phone talk like you. Let's see if I can do this really quick. Yes. Let me pull it up. And so obviously, again, I use my mom as a test to see if she can tell the difference. And if you know anything so far, she did not. Come on. Paste.
Brian Pichman is an American technology strategist and director of strategic innovation at the Evolve Project, where he helps libraries and educational institutions worldwide integrate emerging.
So it can sound like me. So I can be on a phone call if I don't feel like talking. I can just type, and whoever I'm talking to thinks I'm talking to them. It's wild. So whenever I do these talks, I always like to explore what's next, how this is going to evolve. And one of my really good friends, Louis Rosenberg, has a theory of if we let AI go too far, what might happen to modern society. So let me figure out how to play sound really quick. Do you know how?
Usually just works. It might be on the actual, if you get out of
Is it muted there?
No, there it's fine.
Or right in the corner, the volume's all the way down.
No, it's still not playing.
I can explain it too. So in the video, oopsies.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know.
Don't worry.
It just plays.
No, it's okay. Oopsies. So in this video, a family is going to dinner. And he's telling his lovely wife that he is not able to hang out next weekend because he has a golf trip with his friends. And she's like, you didn't tell me about this. We had these plans for weeks, blah, 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 blah. And the glasses that they're wearing is detecting that she's not very pleased about this. And so now they're arguing, and he's telling her, no, I definitely told you. This is, I'll cancel it for you. And so she knows the truth now. So now the waiter comes by, and each person has their own waiter to help, upsell things. And so it knows that he needs a drink because he's interrogated. She's really upset, and the child probably likes, sweet things. So that's her waiter, obviously. So he's trying to sell, some sort of meal to her, and she's like, oh, it's really expensive, and she's mad at him, so she's like, well, I want 2 of those. And now the kid's turn to order food. There we go. Now he's about to put his glasses on so he can order. And that's his waiter. His waiter is going to try to sell this lovely chocolate milkshake. She says, no, you're not allowed to have the milkshake because, you should get water instead. And he's still the little character selling to the boy that he definitely needs the milkshake. As, dads usually do. They cave. And she says something like, he loves you the most or something. So he's like, all right, yeah, we got to give him the milkshake. And so now, she's definitely mad. So, yeah, and then he orders whiskey. So that's his idea. If we'd let AI go so far to analyze our significant loved ones and how they're feeling, it might change our conversation completely. So it's interesting. How many of you thought you were going to do a comedy show today, right? It's a twofer. Some other fun little tools that exist is called Maslow. Maslow's idea is to help you with like therapy, personalized coaching, etc. I was part of their early pilot where I had to log how I felt, what I ate, and choose colors based on how I felt, which was an interesting ad because then it changes the menu. Like they use the colors and how I felt to help train the AI engine to understand how people are feeling and what they're going through based on text. But what's really neat is we as the collaborative world, we have been using AI in healthcare for quite some time. Some good examples, there's like an exercise, muscle exercise tool called Tonal that adjusts weights based on strength and how your form is going. Or if you're wearing like an Apple Watch or a Fitbit, you use AI to understand if you're running or jogging and things like that. Another thing that in healthcare is people are using AI to look at x-rays to make decisions. And what's a fun little anecdotal story is one of the early AI companies that said, hey, we have a product that can read an x-ray and tell you what's broken. Their data set was using x-ray images that were already documented by a doctor. So at the bottom right of these images that they fed the AI, it told them like what was broken. And so when they tried it out with brand new images or images from another x-ray company, it didn't know what to do because the AI engine was literally just reading the text at the bottom corner. And so it's AI is a little black boxy where you're not really sure how it's making some of these decisions. But in that case, that's ended up how it did. It wasn't anything magical. It was just taking the text it saw at the right and go, this is what's broken, because I know now. And then when you give an image of where that text didn't exist, it had no clue. If we're trying to understand like image recognition, another really good use case is if you were building an AI engine and you uploaded 15 pictures of an apple that's green, 15 pictures of an apple that's green and 15 pictures of a red tomato, and you upload a red apple, what do you think the AI engine will think that is? It's going to think it's a tomato because it may have picked up just on the color. So the reason why this story is important is if you're building an AI model, you want to teach it all sorts of colors of apples and all sorts of sizes of apples. So then it detects, okay, well then it's not just color, it's also shape, or it's how it has like this weird little stem, and tomatoes have ridges, and there may be a green stem instead of a brown stem, whatever. We use AI in our smart homes. How many of us have like Alexas or Google Homes and things like that? Those are very logical-based AI tools, but now they're trying to introduce like conversational AI within those frameworks. And this image is a little out of order. This is a really interesting read of how artificial intelligence can pivot the medical industry in a bad way. And the gist of this article is, let's say I have a medical hospital and I need to bill out more. Do I want my AI to be lenient on things, or should I make it think everything's a problem? If I need more billables, I would train my AI to be extra sensitive and like, oh, that scrape probably needs stitches. Because it's going to be like extra diligent and try to make sure it brings as many billables as possible. And so people are saying if healthcare industries are using AI, they should share how the AI model works so people that are using it or going to have it used on them knows what they're getting into. Other fun stuff, there's AI robots out there as well. Samsung comes out with bunches of robots every year, and they release them at a conference called Consumer Electronics Show that takes place in Vegas. They have an AI bot that does the dishes for you, sets the table, so you're like, cool, you can kick the kid out, this is cheaper, it's only like 10 grand. It can do those things. But if you need a friend, like I do, you can buy robots for less than $500 these days that are artificial intelligence powered that you can interact with and have fun. So I'm going to speed through some of these because I don't want to go forever. If you're looking at being part of artificial intelligence programming, here's the skills that you'll need. If you're looking at coding, Python's the language of choice. If you're looking at building the models, math or statistics is important. If you like the idea of building AI that can detect images, the fancy term is computer vision. That also uses AI. And if you're combining robots all in one, like looking at hardware and software, that'd be robotics and engineering. But we see AI in a lot of different ways, from drones to self-driving cars to this bot is called Pepper. If you want to take a picture, I built my own AI playground. It's free for you guys to use. If you go to the website, it's like a 30-day trial. I don't collect your credit card or anything because I don't need it. Because my AI will just hack you later. That's a joke. But if you wanted something that's safe to play with, you can create images, you can create text, you can interact with the chatbot. And if you need more time, just email me and say, hey, can you extend it? I want to play some more. There's some thresholds so I don't get abused by people. But if you just need it, just tell me. So some fun gadgets. So if you have kids or grandkids, or you have friends that have children and you're like, what are some cool AI toys? Here's some of them. This one's called Luca. Luca can read to you. So you hold up a book to Luca and Luca will read it. This is Miko. It's a child AI bot that teaches kids shapes, colors, words, sounds, math, etc., and continues to challenge them and cheer when they get things right. Zoomy is from a company blanking on the company name. Zoomy is a self-driving car that you can program and allow it to teach kids how self-driving cars work. If they're more into drones, they have a drone as well. Kai's Education is a company that makes little robots that you can program them to work with each other, interact with each other, some computer vision involved. So, what's next with AI? What else can we do with it? I will skip a couple of these slides because they're redundant. One of the challenges of artificial intelligence that we probably hear a lot of is can it do bad things? How do we stop it? You can't. There's a phrase that people use is you can't put the genie back in the bottle. My stance on it is if we teach other people how to use it responsibly and ethically, I think we'll be in a good space. If we look at jobs, one of the things that people are worried about is artificial intelligence offsetting jobs. And I will give some really good examples of how I don't think that's 100% true. When we got rid of horses and went to cars, none of us were around then, but when that happened, the fear was, oh no, everyone that owns horses will be out of business, or everyone that makes the leather for the horses, or the blacksmiths that make the shoes for the horses will be out of business. But what happened was their roles were outmoded, meaning that they shifted and goes, oh, I can make car parts instead, the leather belts, etc., that you would find on the old cars. Privacy concerns exist with AI models. OpenAI, which is ChatGPT. The next one's Anthropic, and the last one's Gemini. They explain how they use data and what their stance on it is. In 2023, in November of 2023, Congress brought all these AI companies in, and the idea was, hey, if you're going to make AI models, you have to do it responsibly, and you got to put guardrails in place. Everyone had some really good feedback of what they're doing, how they're going to do it. Facebook or Meta didn't do anything. Why this became important is these 4 images circulated very heavy in the news. Oh, hey, look what happened. This is what's going on. Here's proof of X, Y, Z. And it was all generated by AI. And so the reason this conversation was important was how do we identify these things and how do we prevent people from doing it? So I'm going to brain dump on you in 5 minutes. You guys ready? Fun things to check out. Whichfacesreal.com has a picture of 2 faces, and it's like a little game, and you choose which one's generated by AI and which one isn't, and it's actually quite challenging. If you like drawing, this is a really fun project that somebody did. You draw with a cat. You use your cursor to draw a cat, and it will fill it in and create a cat. I have 0 drawing ability and 0 drawing skills. I can't draw a stick figure, but I tried it. It was scary and horrific. It had 9 heads and 17 tails. I don't play with that, but you can. If you're looking at playing with generative AI, here's 4 tools to check out. Writer allows you to generate text. Super Machine does images. Steve AI does animated videos. And Flicky does audio. Suno, or now it's suno.com. You can create music, and this one's there's like a free tier. It's actually really cool. You type in what you want it to play or create, and it does a really decent job. If you're looking at video content tools, this one is called Pictory. You give it a bunch of text, and it'll create videos from stock images. Firefly is fantastic. It's Adobe's product, and the way they train their engine on this like clip art generator is images that they've created, so it's not images that exist out there in the wild. It's all paid content. For operational AI, if you hate meetings and hate emails, I have tools for you. What Crisp does is if you're on a call and you have like screaming kids in the background, it's smart enough to mute the children and let the people only hear you. Or if you're like working remotely but you're at the airport and you don't want your boss to find out, and you run Crisp, it'll mute out all the airplane noises. Poise teaches you how to present better, or walks you through an agenda, or coaches you through interviews. And MeetGeek is a tool that joins every one of your meetings and takes notes. So before and after with your AI tools. So here's an example of MeetGeek. It like transcribes, gives me a summary, gives me a bullet point of who promised what, and then I can chat with my meetings. So if I said, hey, all the meetings that I had today, what did I promise? It'll give me like a summary of every meeting. I use a tool called Superhuman that will take my email and use AI to make it better. So how many of us get emails from someone, they write a book, and it's like really just can be condensed into one bullet point? Superhuman understands you and loves you and gives you that one bullet point so you don't have to read the book. Or if you have like kids that you don't like and they write you emails, you're like, summarize please. I get it, fantastic. This is what it looks like. The bullet points are the top. And then I can even write like me, so I can write very simple line of text, hit send, and then it rewrites that conversation for me. And then I can even chat with all my emails, and the idea is whenever we're looking for information from our email, our search parameters are usually, all right, who sent it to me, and what was the subject of that email, and then you find that right email, you read it to get your answer. They shortcut that, and you just literally ask what you're looking for. Like, I'm looking for my flights that I have to be on, or when am I supposed to present at the next conference, and it spits it all out. Some social media tools, skip that. There we go. Be Human is another great tool that will clone yourself, so you can have a digital twin. And then Wisecut you can upload like your family of Disney videos where you were in like Disney with your kids, and you can make like a little like a shortcutted video reel, like a trailer and a whole bunch of other stuff. It fixes the sound and audio issues as well. So if you take a picture of this, on this website that I own, I list out a bunch of different AI tools. Some of them I have like a link that says you can log in with it. That's the username and password for them. You can play with as many as you like. Oops, sorry. And again, these slides will be shared, so it'll be A-okay. And then again, if you wanted the playground, there's that as well. And questions. And we'll stay a little longer to answer questions. I know I brain dumped on you, but hopefully this was fun. You learned something new, and you're excited to explore the world of AI. Any questions? Yeah.
Say you were going to share this at the library website, the YouTube site?
Yes. Yep.
I'm looking for like a comprehensive guide to all the tools. I mean, I'm using basically Copilot out of the box.
Okay, cool.
Copilot at work, but that's got a lot of guardrails, and I use Gemini.
Okay.
All these other ones. I'm looking at the imaging because that's all over the place. At one time, you could generate an image, and it would kind of, like, it would be a real great tool for education. Like, say, the tree of evolution.
Yeah.
Okay, show me cephalopods and highlight it and make a customized graphic. But is that out there anymore now, or is
Yeah, it still is. They just got better at creating like the text part of it. Like so, I don't know if when you early on, like the text would probably don't make sense or the words are blurry. It's, for the most part, 80 to 90% of the time, it's near perfect. And so it's just got like use ChatGPT, the free tier. You can get some pretty cool images generated based off that prompt.
So
And-
it's a free,
Yeah, ChatGPT has a free tier. Google, what is it, VO? I don't believe is free, but Google VO allows you to generate like realistic video. So you can give a prompt of throw a rock into the water, and it'll have a video generated of someone throwing a rock, and then does the splash, and if it splashes on a person, their shirt's now wet. It's super impressive.
And just to clarify, we are recording tonight's program, so it will be posted to the library's YouTube page in a couple days. So it'll have the slides and Brian's presentation, speech, all that.
Yeah.
In the presentation, you mentioned how your main support of AI comes from your idea that we can have a world with AI if we regulate it ethically and we teach people a responsible way to use it. One of my main concerns with AI is the environmental impact of it. A lot of people don't know that ChatGPT is a giant computer system that's just underground, and it takes a lot of power to use and a lot of water to cool down. Also, with deep fakes and all of that, there's instances of people, their faces being put on videos and putting maybe on certain like adult websites that they don't even know about. So there's a lot of fears with that. My question is, how would you go about creating an AI system that is responsible and ethical for the overall population?
Yeah, so one of my friends.
Sorry, Brian, could you repeat the question?
Oh, yeah, sorry. The question is, for two questions, like how do we understand the power consumption and usage of AI and what that does to the environment? And the second piece is, are there resources or where do we start at how to be responsible with the use of AI? So I answered the second part of that question first. There's a really great book called AI for the Rest of Us by Beth Rudden and Phaedra, I can never pronounce it, Phaedra B. And it's a really great book, and it actually is designed to teach kids artificial intelligence too and how to use it in a responsible way and like the myths around how AI works. And then also like how to build the guardrails and how to educate others what those guardrails are. There's a lot of discussion about if content's generated by AI to flag that it's generated by AI. So at least there's a stamp of some kind. But to get there, I think is going to be a very big battle because the race right now that businesses have is I want the best AI tool out there, and I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get there and kind of ignoring the rest. The environmental thing is interesting. The biggest environmental impact is generating the language model. So generating the content that you're going to interact with is a massive amount of power consumption that requires a bunch of servers to run and compute basically a giant algorithm. But once that's generated, you can actually download like Gemini's AI tool to your computer and run it offline. So you can download an LLM, a large language model, you can download it to your computer, disconnect it from the internet, and interact with it as if you were connected to the internet. So that's two ways where you can help mitigate power usage and also make sure that your conversations aren't going to be generated somewhere else, and you can keep it private. The tool to do that is called, Open Language, I believe. I have it on my laptop. I'll pull it up after. But you can run basically language models entirely offline, which is really, really neat. The power consumption to chat with AI is, I think it's like twice the amount of power consumption it is for Google search. Just if you're looking at that mathematically. So it adds up pretty fast. And now, obviously, these AI companies are trying to decrease that because it's a cost. So their incentive to decreasing the power consumption or the cooling is cost-driven. And so it has gotten cheaper environmentally as times have as things have moved forward. There's a really cool study where I guess one AI company wanted to build a data center and they invested like $1 billion in these computer chips, and they require so much power that it killed the city's electrical grid. And so now that data center is unusable because the city goes, no, you can't, until you fix the power thing, we're not going to let this entire town suffer as a result. But it's a different story for a different day. Yeah.
What is the cost for the applications? I mean, it sounds like everything's a separate app,
Yeah. So you can buy like the, what is it, pro version of ChatGPT for $20 a month. The Google VO, the one that generates images, I want to say it's like $80 a month. It ain't cheap. So the tools that I share have a lot of free tier, like a free tier on it. If you go to that website, at the very, very bottom, a friend of mine generated a list of AI tools that he thinks are ethically and responsibly sourced and put together and using good data. His name is Gary Price. So if you scroll to the very bottom of that website, there's a link that says like Gary Price's list. You can go there and you can see his ethically sourced list, which is pretty good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you did address the environmental factors part of our question. I'd like to ask you to talk more about the ethical perspectives. There was a case of a young man, he was a teenager, I believe he was 14 in Orlando, Florida, a couple of years ago. I don't know if you've heard about the case. His mother was an attorney and she sued, but he got attached to a bot, and he was a young man having some mental health issues, depression, and the parents did see some change, and I'll never forget, I read the report and I listened to the mother's interview and a video interview that when they went back and they checked his phone, you know, he said that he was ready to leave this earth and he would see her on the other side, and her response was, I'll be there waiting for you. And it's another young woman who has a teenage voice, it's artificial, but he got attached to her and ended up committing suicide. And to me, that is the hardest part, because how you train young people who are risk takers and believe that these are real people. And, you know, so for me, artificial intelligence is like an oxymoron, because I believe that intelligence is human, and we are trying to create human beings with technology. So I may have a different perspective that's very far reach from people around here, but I think those are issues that we need to examine very closely, because we are calling this development, but at one cost.
Yeah.
And you gave the example of the power grid, you know, going off. So yes, we are advancing technology, but what price? Can we really measure that? Is it totally quantitative or is it qualitative?
Yeah.
And I think those are the issues that we as human beings have to examine closely and then make decisions of how this will best serve or not serve us in
Yeah.
our personal lives.
So the question is, based on like the story that happened in Florida, where a child fell victim to being in love with the bot, and I don't know if victim's the right word, but fell in love with the bot, and then the bot just allowed something to happen. The sad reality of that is that happens with or without AI as well. Like there's hundreds of stories of malicious individuals that foster these conversations with others to cause them to do harm either to themselves or others. And so if we think of it in that framework, like humans have been doing it, and now AI is also doing it, what if we taught AI to help detect the human aspect of that and somehow flag and alert? That's like a whole different combo. But just need to say that that has happened before AI is also important to recognize. And the solution, I think, is a lot of education. I don't think we're educating people enough. I think the library here is doing a really good job of educating people what's out there in AI so people can have like really good dialogues like we're having. I think that's important. I think more people need to like promote the idea of, hey, this is an issue, this happens before, how do we work on that? And to answer, like, do we do that on a political level? Maybe. You can try boycotting certain AI tools, but I don't know if that's possible because of the monopoly a lot of them have. But it's a good conversation for people to have, and at least if you can educate your social network, then their social network would, there's a concept called circle of influence. So every time you talk to someone, your circle of influence expands. And so if you continue doing that and having these conversations, I think you can make a difference. It won't impact the entire world, but you can make a change. Yeah.
The consensus is that AI will cure most diseases in the future. What's your take on that?
I think it could help. I think there's still a lot of like human interaction needed to get from that point. So like when I use AI to like write code, it's not always right, and so or doesn't do what I think it should do. Even though it's like swears like, no, this should work. I don't understand what's wrong. I think it still requires a human element to go, hey, no, this is not the way to do it. Let's try it a different way. So I think it's a tool. I don't think it's the solver, if that makes sense. I like to consider it like a calculator. So I was told when I was in school, Brian, you got to learn math. You'll never have a calculator in your pocket, but now I do. It's on my phone. So I called up that teacher, told them they were wrong. But I think I see AI as like my calculator. I can pull it out, ask a quick question, have a discussion, and I like to hold the decision on because that's just how I am. I won't allow AI to make the final decision. I have to still gut check it. And I work with engineers that do not. Well, they're like, no, it says it'll be fine. I'm like, I swear to you, it's not going to be fine if you hit run the code. And so I think I think it has to be a symbiotic relationship. Yes.
So I am using ChatGPT. I love it for everything. So for example, in the Google Photos, there is a limit. You can reach first limit, and then they ask you to pay for some kind of amount of memory that you are using. Is the same thing with the ChatGPT? Is that something that you cross the limit and they will have to pay?
Yeah. So the question is there a limit on how much the free version gets you? There is. I don't know what those limits are offhand. Like you can't make more than like 5 images in an hour or something like that. I believe is like one of the ChatGPT limits if you have the free version. If you're paying for it, those limits are a lot larger. You can still run into a limit. If you're making probably like hundreds of images, it'll probably say, hey, you need to stop. But even the paid products still have limits too. There's no such thing as unlimited in the space. Cool. Any other questions? And if you have questions after, you can email me. My AI will respond to you. That's it. But you'll never know. Yeah.
Like in the future, do you see like AI just getting more and more powerful over like 10 years from now it'll be even
So yeah, I think
what it is now, and then like is there any way to figure out like okay, imagine
what's next?
looks like, or it's like that's too far out, it's changing too rapidly.
Yeah.
Or,
So the question is, where will AI be next? Like how quickly can it evolve, and how quickly will it evolve? So if we look at when ChatGPT was announced in late 2022, and now we're in 2025. So in 3 years, we had an AI model that if you asked it to make a hand, it's probably 6 fingers or 7 fingers, to now it has like a fingerprint detail level. Or if you asked it to create a text, it was usually blurry and symbolic, and now it's pretty clear. And that happened like last year. So in 2 years of evolution of this technology, it's gotten really impressive. So I believe it's going to continue to get more and more advanced and more capable of what it can do. So yeah, I think we're going to see, in my personal opinion, I think we're going to see it more in computer vision. There's also a few companies experimenting with like pins that you can wear that record all the conversations you have throughout the day, or glasses that you can wear that like track what you're looking at. Facebook Meta is one really good example where you can say, Meta, what am I looking at? And it tells you. I think we're going to see more and more of those types of products in the very near future. Any other questions? Awesome. Oh yeah, one more.
It's going to reduce the use of humans, in other words, you'll have less jobs.
No, I don't think we're gonna have less jobs, because similar to the like, can AI solve all the viruses that exist in the world? I still believe there needs to be a human element, and I'm willing to bet there will always be a human element, because humans like control, and I think there's enough people that love control not to completely let go. And so I think augmenting humans with AI is going to occur, but I don't think it's going to be a job destroyer by a means where you can measure it as a huge loss.
It looks like previous data, right?
Correct.
Now, as time goes on, that data then changes.
Yeah,
And then it has a different solution, a different output.
correct.
It's always relevant. How are you going to know that you're at the right spot in the evolution,
So I guess your question is, if I'm interacting with an AI engine, how do I know if it's taking the most recent data set or the older data sets, right? You don't. If you're looking at some tools will actually tell you, here's where I got this information. And you could go interact with it and go, hey, is there anything newer? And it may go back and go, okay, actually, new study says this. Brian was wrong and there is job loss. Here's the report. And so, yeah, you would have to interact with it. So you have to have that human component. Say, hey, is there anything newer? Is there anything with fresher data? And it'll go check and spit something else out.
But there's no little anecdote that tells you the time sensitivity of that information.
Some do, like where it came from and when. Correct. So yeah, so if you're using it, so the question is like, is there like a way to link when those things were posted? Depending on the tool, Perplexity will actually give you a hyperlink with where that source is, and you can go straight to the source and see when it was updated. And that would be the human element of fact checking. Cool. Yeah.
Has there been any studies or any books out on how it's going to affect education? You know, how these kids are just using AI and, you know, especially in the university level right now, that's becoming noticeable now.
Yeah, one of my friends, Chad Marin, he's based in Florida. He writes a lot about that challenge. He has a belief that we're asking questions wrong to students. So if I ask a student to regurgitate information, that's not a good question. Like if I say, tell me what happened in the Civil War, and they're just regurgitating it, that's actually not a good question. Like the better question is, during the Civil War, what occurred that we can compare to your own life today? Like that would be a thought-provoking question where you're analyzing a piece of data and coming up with a result. Sure, you can feed it into an AI model and ask those same questions and give the AI a little bit about you to help write it. But I think asking better questions is important. Some schools are actually teaching kids or teaching students how to use AI to solve the questions, and the thing that they submit is what were the prompts and did they fact check it? Like how did that AI get that piece of information? So they're taking the route of like the responsible use of, all right, well, use the tool, we want you to use the tool, but now show us where you think that tool got the information. And that is a very good question then, because you're not going to get that out of the box. Cool. I have to skirt out of here, but if there's anything else, feel free to email me. Thank you all. Thank you. Yeah.